Smoky eyes are absolutely making a comeback, and this makeup on Grace Van Patten from the Vanity Fair After Party that her makeup artist Diane did on her is the perfect example of how to do a smoky eye right, soft, glowy, and doesn't overpower your features. So let's do a full breakdown on exactly how you can recreate it. Of course, starting with skin prep. I always like to really massage that moisturizer or hydrating milky toner into the skin for a minute or two. That way it really sinks in. Next, going in with a blurring primer to the center of the face just to smooth everything out. Then going in with the cream or liquid illuminator to the high points, so on the tops of the cheek, the bridge of the nose, a little right under the brow bone, and a tiny bit on the forehead. This just catches the light and gives that subtle lit from within glow. Taking just a pump of foundation onto the back of my hand, really working the brush into that product, starting in the center of the face and working my way out. This look definitely reads more medium to full coverage, but I still like to start in thin layers and just build where I need it. This way we're still getting that coverage that we want, but without it looking heavy or like a mask. For bronzer, focusing that on the tops of the cheekbone, into the temples, and lightly around the forehead and the jawline. So basically where the sun would naturally hit. Also, using a fluffy brush like this makes all the difference. This is the Sigma F40 brush. It warms the face, but without giving you any harsh lines. Going in with a brightening concealer where I want that extra coverage, so under the eyes and around the nose. Then I always like to go back in with the brush that I use for foundation, just lightly blend everything together. Diane used the Charlotte Tilbury blush in the shade Rosy Glow, which is a warm rosy pink, but I don't have that exact shade, so I'm going to use the Rhode Pocket Blush in the shade Sprinkle. Because the eyes are kind of the focal point of this look, I want to keep everything else really soft, even the blush. So applying a bit of that blush higher up on the cheekbone, blending it into the bronzer, and taking a little right onto the apples of the cheek. Going in with a pinky loose setting powder, placing that under the eyes, then going in with a flesh toned pressed powder, placing that pretty much everywhere else. Start this smoky eye, taking a black pencil liner into the upper and lower lash line, dipping into these two taupey shades, taking that all over the lid and diffusing it up into the crease. Now going in with a flat brush, dipping into this black and gray shade, tapping that on the back of my hand just to get rid of any excess product, focusing that on the outer corner near the lash line, and then on the inner corner, going in with a clean fluffy brush to diffuse those edges. Just repeating those steps until you get the desired depth that you're going for. Some key things for a smoky eye: focus the shadow mainly on the lash line and the lid, not bringing it too far up into the crease. I feel like that's where the smoky eye can start looking a little raccoony. Honestly, it's okay if it's a little messy. That's kind of what makes the look, in my opinion. Now adding a little bit of this highlight shade, focusing that on the center of the lid, using a black mascara and focusing that at the root of the lashes. Makeup Forever pencil in the shade Wherever Walnut and the shade Endless Cacao. A little bit of sprinkle on the center of the lip. Let me know which look you guys want to see next. Bye.